Hey everyone, welcome to a series of videos on teaching orchestral tuning to a heterogeneous classroom. This is a scary topic for teachers, especially teachers who are itinerant, on the go, have a limited amount of time in front of the classroom. You're traveling, you're bringing all sorts of stuff with you. And even for the teachers like myself who are stay in one place, I teach high school, it's still a scary topic because we want to get the kids playing quickly and we don't want to lose their interest. But what I will say is that teaching tuning is the best way to give independence and autonomy over each student's learning to themselves. It makes them independent learners, and in this time of quarantine, having them already know how to tune would be an incredible asset. So I want to give you some processes that I use, certainly not the end all, but what I've used over my time in the classroom that I think has been successful, can still be improved upon, but it's a good place to start. I'm going to talk about this in levels, and the level 1 tuning can begin in the second year of instruction, so I'm thinking 7th grade. And you can break all of these tuning processes down into smaller steps or go as small as you want. So let's talk about some of the difficulties of tuning and some of the things that you may want to preview before you start doing this with a classroom. You're going to have to set up some expectations, no talking. I would use a group reward. I do a marble system in my classroom. So when the kids get a certain number of marbles, they get a party. So I build in some sort of intrinsic reward before I start doing this because it's boring and kids aren't going to want to do this just out of the goodness of their heart. So you have to build in some sort of reward system in your classroom setup, in your procedures that will support this process moving forward. Okay, so one of we're going to talk about the upper level strings, and you can go to my other videos for viola, cello, and bass. Well, viola is going to be similar, but you can go to the cello and bass videos, and then you can see the specifics for tuning for those instruments a little bit more in this video. But I'm going to talk about general classroom setup. The first thing is that I have them get into what I call a twizzle mode, so they all have tuners on their tailpieces, and again, check out my setup videos on what I prescribe for each instrument that they need. They have to have all 4 tuners, they have to have a shoulder rest, okay, and a bow that's fairly well in good working order, so you don't want something that's all chewed up and all black and doesn't make good tone. So we need a good tone. The first thing is we want to get them twizzling, in other words, reaching the tuner with their left hand and bowing at the same time consistently. So the first thing I tell them is that you need to keep your bow moving. That's the first thing. And I want a tuning tone at the tip. So we're going to just practice bowing with a tuning tone. Okay, and we can try that on all different strings before we start talking about actual adjusting the pitch. Okay, so that's sort of step number 1. The other, I think, integral tool in this process is to have a tuner that you can program all of the notes of the orchestra that you would like to tune. I use the Dr. Beat because there's a memory setting that when you push the memory button, I can cycle through the notes of the instruments. So we start out, put this on low here, start with A, and I program them in this specific order, so it's always the same. D is next, G, C, low E for the bass, and high E for the violins. Those 6 tones in that order are programmed into my tuner here. And if I was doing this with 6th grade, I might just start out with one string for them to practice to tune, or 7th grade, excuse me. I might just start out with 1 string to tune. And maybe, thinking that in this, just in the moment, if I was a 6th grade orchestra teacher, I would just be getting them to play those long tones consistently within twizzle mode, and you might do that most of 6th grade. When you get to 7th grade, and you could also do, in 6th grade, you also do some matching pitches ideas, but just telling the difference between tones, using Intune, the app, and just being able to tell the difference between 2 pitches. All sorts of preview activities you can do in 6th grade. Then in 7th grade, again, you're going to start right on that, in that twizzle mode. And so if you've been doing smooth bows, through 6th grade, 7th grade, you're going to get them twizzled, and they should already know how to do that if you've introduced that already. And you're going to start with each string, and you're going to tell them you have a 50-50 chance. Righty-tighty, going to the right, goes up, lefty-loosey, goes down. If it doesn't sound better, go the other way. Oh, that sounds terrible. I'm gonna pick a direction. Oh, that's getting worse. I'm gonna go the other direction. I'm gonna tune and then I'm gonna listen. Tune and then I'm gonna listen. Now, what you're going to see happening is that the kids will just start cranking, and they won't be listening. Now, some kids won't crank at all, and they'll just sit on it. So it's a combination of turning, listening, turning, and then listening with your twizzle hand, and keeping this hand moving. So we've got levels of things that we have to do simultaneously. So I would start with that one string and see if they can get used to figuring out how to match pitch, adjust their string to the class tuner. Then if you move along, maybe that's going well, and towards the end of the year you might want to add the next string. So then every class you tune 2 strings. And I don't have a tuner on this violin, but you would go down the list, okay? And then I would just keep adding strings until you get all the way up to the E string. Now that can be done, over in a fairly short amount of time. You can build in a couple of other types of games in there. I do a time tuning game where I will give what I call freebies. And I say, everybody just tune softly. We're going to do 1 string at a time. I'll give you your freebie. Everyone's tuning. Go through them all. Okay. Then I turn on a stopwatch. And I go down every single row. And I listen to every student without touching them. So if I hear the first person play an A, and it's pretty high, I'm going to go like this to them. Too low, bring it like this. And eventually, we're going to get that time of tuning the entire class down. It might start out at like 5 minutes. We want to get that down to under 2 minutes. I've gotten a class of 20 to 25 in a minute and a half, minute and 45. You can get that down if every single person is twizzled, ready to go, and have already used their freebies carefully. You can go through every single person in the class without touching them. Okay, so that's level 1. Also, another thing to tell the students is help your partner during the freebies. Check your note with your partner's note. Therefore, you have multiple levels of tuning and collaboration between STEM partners. Okay, so that's going to be level 1. Stay tuned for the next video. I'm going to talk about level 2. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.